Good evening, everybody. I'm Neil Cavuto, and it turns out it's not Republicans throwing Granny off a cliff. All this time, it's been the Fed. Vocal critics claiming the Federal Reserves have been keeping interest rates so low for so long that seniors living off them have been, well, getting so burned. A charge that really burns when Ben Bernanke, the former Fed head, blasting back in a blog that he ain't going to take it anymore. That thanks to those low rates, the economy's coming back, and so are the markets, so everybody just shut the hell up. Okay, he didn't really say that part, but he was very clear when it comes to all of this Fed bashing. A not-so-gentle Ben has had enough of this. To Katherine Mangu-Ward, David Asman, Katherine Timpf, on who's the real Granny Killer? Dave.
It's very simple. Granny ain't going to be around that much longer. She's got to live off of fixed income unless she wants to invest in the stock market, and most older people don't. Right. And because she can't wait around for Ben Bernanke's formula to work, she needs money now. My parents are an example, frankly. They have a lot of bonds. Those bonds are about to expire. They're going to, rather than living off of income from the bonds, they're going to have to dig into the principal, and that's going to be drawn down.
You're a fairly wealthy guy. Kick in and help him out.
I'm doing the best I can. Believe me, trust me.
Gather, what do you think?
Well, this entire blog post is one of the most strangely arrogant things that I've ever heard, and the attitude of it, especially coming from a like Ben Bernanke. What?
Right.
He just basically.
He's been getting this criticism a lot over the years that he kept things artificial, forced states low, built a bubble. I think
it sounded like an angry Facebook status more than an intelligent response to anything. He never justified why he was smart enough, or the Fed was smart enough to magically know what the price should be or interest rate should be, which of course you can't. And it's so arrogant to say that there won't be any negative externalities because, yes, obviously setting them lower increases risk.
Now, he has argued, and Janet Yellen, his successor, has argued, Katherine Mangu-Ward in Washington, that look, thanks to this shepherding, this recovery along and keeping rates as low as they did, we haven't seen any inflation, if that's the concern. But we did build the markets back up. We did build people's portfolios back up, their cash flow back up. So stick that in your pipe and smoke it. Now, again, he didn't say to stick that in your pipe and smoke. But what do you make of that?
He had gone a little more direct on the throw the seniors under the bus ticket. I'm always in favor of generational warfare, and I think, politicians very, very often cater to seniors. They do things that don't make sense in the long run. I have no idea what interest rates are supposed to be. I don't know if Ben Bernanke knows what interest rates are supposed to be, but I like it that he said, listen, the point of the Fed isn't to provide a kind of short-term sop to a constituency of people who vote. We're trying to do something bigger.
Well, you can argue that it provided a long-term sop, right?
Well, the point is we do know something about where interest rates should be. They should be above the rate of inflation. The only time they're below the rate of inflation is when we're in a recession. They have been below the rate of inflation for the past 3.5 years because of what Ben Bernanke has done.
So they should be at 2% rather than 0%.
The point is, right? If you're depositing money in a bank, you should be making a little bit. Instead, you're losing because as low as inflation is, it's still higher than the interest rate. So you're losing money if you're saving. That discourages saving, and that's bad for the economy.
There is something to what he says when, they've been the only adults in town, if you think about it. Now, you don't have to like what the Federal Reserve is doing, but Congress certainly botched it. The president really just threw more stimulus than you could shake a stick at that had questionable results. So you could say, from his point of view, if not for my keeping rates as low as they have and giving corporations a chance to get off their fannies, seniors would be in a whole lot worse shape.
You can always say that, right? You could say, well, it could always be worse because there's no way to prove it because there's no way to know what they're supposed to be, which is why stay as little involved as possible is the best thing to do.
Katherine, though, in Washington, do you get a sense, though, that I know you said I don't know what rates should be. I agree with Dave that if you just follow what they roughly are with inflation, we should be a couple of points higher. But in the scheme of things, would that have made much of a difference? If, for example, inflation doesn't appear to be a big threat, maybe the Fed has done no harm, no foul. What do you think?
I always favor it when elected officials or appointed officials say, I'm not sure what the right answer is here, and as Kat said, I'm going to do as little as possible to mess around with the existing system. I think it's great that he's got this blog, and he's going to, at the very least, retroactively explain what the heck was going on inside the Fed while they were making all these decisions. I, for one, would welcome a little transparency.
It is sort of like Bernanke unhinged. It's like an NTV thing.
I like to think of Bernanke unplugged, not Bernanke unhinged.
hearing from the Fed and others, and you just said it, and I guess I'm arguing with you, Neil.
That's fine.
I don't think that inflation is something that you can ignore. Inflation for a lot of people is a
You
very
said
real
that.
thing.
You think that it's a real issue, and we're not representing.
We've had food going up. City services are going. We just had a 10% hike in the bus fare and the subway fare in Manhattan. I know you haven't been in a subway for a
Nor
while.
And
you,
he
by
says
the
it's
way.
all because of
I'll
him.
show
that
you
it's
my
not
Well, how are you
growing.
going to blame that on the Federal Reserve?
I'm not blaming it on the Federal Reserve. They're saying that
right.
inflation is not a problem. They want a little more inflation. I say we have enough. And here's my Metro card, Neil.
Okay, fine. You just drew that in the break. Guys, thank you all very, very much. And the